So Yiddish was a big part. And then my mother, in her last big job, was as executive director of the Temple Gates of Zion Synagogue in Valley Stream, New York. Fairly large synagogue. The rabbi, Simon Reznikoff, was very well known in the community. And I think my mother put that profession of executive director of a synagogue on the map. She made it into a professional undertaking. She had worked in Great Neck previously, but she was an organizer, and she was very active. And she created what was something that was followed all over New York and probably elsewhere, the idea of a thing called the Yiddish Vinkl, Yiddish corner. And I don't know whether she had it once a week or once a month, but in the synagogue, when you came to the Vinkl, you could only talk Yiddish. That's how you kept it going. That's how you learned. And every year she put on what they called a herring and potato supper, like a dairy supper for hundreds of people in the ballroom at the Temple Gates of Zion. And they would have, I don't know if they might have had Molly Pecan, they would have big Jewish stars. Theodor Bickel, Herschel Bernardi, different people from that era would come and entertain, and my mother was in charge of that. And I know, I'm a graduate of Queens College, but when I went in the 60s, there was no Yiddish studies program. But in the 70s, I think Queens was one of the first colleges to have a Yiddish studies program. They invited my mother to the opening of their program because they knew she was a force in the community keeping Yiddish alive. So she considered herself a Yiddishist. And we were very much Zionists in our family. However, the first time my mother went to Israel, she was disappointed because, you know, Israel tried very hard to take Jewish out of the equation and made Hebrew the language. And I know initially in Israel you couldn't even have Yiddish theater. It was right. It wasn't really until '67 or so when Yiddish began to be more accepted. And that was when my mother first made her trip there in the late 60s. She came back not very happy because they don't want Yiddish. That's our language. That's our tongue. That's our touch. We need that. And it bothered her. And for the rest of her life, she had this kind of love-hate relationship with Israel. She went another time after that. My brother lived there for a few years, worked there. But she was a Yiddishist first and foremost.